She told our landlord I'd been abusive to get me kicked out, said she feared for her safety, and I just packed a bag without arguing. Let me explain how we got there. My girlfriend Rachel and I had been living together for 18 months in a one-bedroom apartment in downtown Portland. The lease was joint, both our names on it, splitting everything 50-50. The relationship had been deteriorating for months. She'd been increasingly controlling about money and jealous of my female coworkers. I should have seen the warning signs. Our landlord was Frank Morrison, who owned a small complex of 8 units. Frank was a retired firefighter, straightforward guy who ran his properties professionally. He had strict policies about tenant disputes and a zero-tolerance approach to anything that might create liability issues. The apartment came with a basic security system that was already installed when we moved in. 2 cameras in the common areas, connected to a DVR that kept recordings for 30 days. Standard stuff for downtown rentals after all the break-ins in the neighborhood. Both Rachel and I had signed addendums acknowledging the security system as part of our lease agreement. The breaking point came on a Thursday in February. Rachel wanted to use our joint savings account to pay for her sister's wedding dress. $2,000 we'd been saving for a car down payment. It's an emergency, she said over breakfast. Jenny can't afford it and the wedding is next month. Rachel, that's our car fund. We've been saving for 8 months. We can save again. This is family. Your family, and it's not our responsibility. She slammed her coffee mug down. You're being selfish. Jenny's my only sister. And that $2,000 is half mine. I'm not comfortable spending it on someone else's wedding dress. Fine. I'll take my half out and use my credit card for the rest. That's your choice, but I'm not co-signing any new debt. Rachel stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I figured she'd cool off by evening like she usually did after our fights. But that afternoon, Frank called me at work. David, I need to see you in my office when you get home. We have a situation. Frank's office was in the management building next to our complex. When I arrived around 6, he looked uncomfortable. I got a disturbing call from Rachel today. She says there's been domestic violence in your apartment. I felt the floor drop. What exactly did she tell you? She says you've been physically aggressive with her during arguments, that this morning's fight got physical and she's afraid to be alone with you. Frank, that's completely false. We argued about money, but I never laid a hand on her. Frank looked genuinely troubled. David, I've never seen any signs of trouble with you two, but I can't ignore a direct report from a tenant claiming domestic violence. What did she tell you happened? She says you grabbed her arms during the argument and shoved her against the kitchen counter, called her names. She says she left because she was scared. None of that happened. We argued, she got upset, and she left. That's it. Frank rubbed his jaw. Here's the problem. Rachel's requesting I remove you from the lease under the domestic violence provisions in Oregon landlord-tenant law. She says she's afraid to live with you. Based on false accusations? David, I have to take all domestic violence reports seriously. It's not just policy, it's liability. If something happens and I ignored warning signs, I understand your position, but she's lying. Can you give me some time to prove that? Frank considered this. What kind of proof are you talking about? The security cameras, they record everything in the common areas with audio. The whole argument is on there. Those cameras record audio? Yes, it's in our lease addendum. We both signed acknowledgement that the system records video and audio for security purposes. Frank looked thoughtful. If you can show me footage that contradicts her story, I'll reconsider. But David, if the footage supports her version, you'll need to find alternative housing immediately. Understood. Can I show you tomorrow evening? Tomorrow at 7. My office. I went home to find Rachel packing a suitcase. She looked up when I walked in and I could see she was nervous. Going somewhere? I asked. Staying at my sister's for a few days. I think we need some space. Space from what? From this toxic situation. From your anger issues. My anger issues. Rachel, what did you tell Frank? She zipped her suitcase without looking at me. I told him the truth about how you treat me. Which truth would that be? Because I can pull up the security footage from this morning if you want to refresh your memory. Rachel's face went white. Those cameras don't record everything. They record enough. Video and audio of our entire argument. You can't use that. I didn't consent to being recorded. You signed a lease addendum specifically acknowledging the recording system. Same as me. Rachel grabbed her suitcase and headed for the door. Frank won't care about your stupid cameras. We'll see. That evening, I reviewed the morning's footage on my laptop. The cameras clearly showed Rachel and me having a heated argument about money. But at no point did I touch her or even get within arm's reach. The audio captured every word, including her slamming the mug and storming out. There was no physical contact, no shoving, no grabbing. The next morning, Rachel's sister Jenny called me. David, Rachel told me what happened. I can't believe you put your hands on her. Jenny, I didn't touch her. We had an argument about money, nothing physical. She has bruises on her arms. From what? Because they didn't come from me. She says you grabbed her and pushed her. She's lying. I have security footage that proves nothing physical happened. Jenny was quiet for a moment. Why would she lie about something like that? You'd have to ask her. Friday evening, I met Frank at his office with my laptop and the relevant footage queued up. All right, David, show me what you've got. I played the entire argument from start to finish. Frank watched carefully, occasionally asking me to replay certain sections. I don't see any physical contact, he said when it finished. Because there wasn't any. Look at the positioning. We're never closer than 4 feet apart. Frank rewound to the part where Rachel claimed I shoved her against the counter. The footage clearly showed her standing by the sink while I remained seated at the kitchen table. This contradicts her story completely, Frank said. That's because her story is false. But why would she lie about something this serious? I think she wants me out of the apartment. She's been pushing for months to get my name off the lease and make it hers alone. Frank studied the footage again. David, this puts me in a difficult position. Rachel filed a formal written complaint. If I ignore it based on this footage, she could claim I'm not taking domestic violence seriously. What are you suggesting? I need to handle this by the book. I'm going to require Rachel to file a police report if she wants to pursue the domestic violence claim. And if she won't, then I'll consider her complaint withdrawn and take no further action. What if she does file a police report? Then we let the police investigate. If they find evidence of abuse, you'll need to move out. If they find her claims are false, she'll need to move out for filing a false report. It was a fair approach. How long do I have? I'm giving Rachel 1 week to either file a police report or withdraw her complaint. If she does neither, I'll assume she's withdrawn it. Saturday morning, Rachel called me. Frank says I have to file a police report or drop the complaint. That's right. I don't want to involve the police. Can't we just work this out between us? Work what out? You accused me of domestic violence. Either it happened or it didn't. I was upset. I might have exaggerated some things. You might have exaggerated being shoved against a counter and grabbed by the arms. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. David, if I withdraw the complaint, can we try to work on our relationship? No. This is over, Rachel. You tried to get me kicked out of my home with false accusations. I panicked. I didn't know what else to do. You could have talked to me. You could have suggested we break up and one of us move out. You didn't have to lie about domestic violence. I know, I made a mistake. A mistake that could have destroyed my reputation and gotten me arrested. Rachel started crying. I'll withdraw the complaint. I'll tell Frank it was all a misunderstanding. Good, do that. Monday morning, Frank called me. Rachel came by this morning. She's withdrawing her domestic violence complaint. What reason did she give? Said she was upset and may have misinterpreted your actions during the argument. Misinterpreted me sitting at a table 4 feet away from her? I showed her the security footage. She didn't have much to say after that. So what happens now? Now we have a different problem. Rachel's requesting to break the lease and move out, but she wants you to pay the early termination fees. That's not happening. I figured you'd say that. Under the circumstances, I'm willing to let one of you out of the lease without penalties. Rachel caused this situation, so she can bear the consequences. She's agreed to that? She doesn't have much choice. I could evict her for filing a false complaint against another tenant. This is me being generous. Rachel moved out the following weekend. She took her furniture and personal belongings but left without any drama. I helped her carry boxes to her car, which seemed to surprise her. "You're being very nice about this," she said as we loaded the last box. "I'm not vindictive, Rachel. I just want this over with." "I really am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything." "No, it doesn't. But I hope you get help figuring out why you thought false accusations were the solution to relationship problems. I'm starting counseling next week." "Good." Rachel drove away and I never saw her again. Frank transferred the lease to my name only, and I lived there for another year before buying my own place. 6 months later, I ran into Jenny at a coffee shop downtown. She looked embarrassed when she saw me. "David, I owe you an apology." Rachel told me the whole story about what really happened. "She did?" "She's been in therapy. Part of her treatment is making amends for the lies she told. She explained that she made up the domestic violence story because she wanted to force you out of the apartment." "Why did she want me out so badly?" "She was planning to move her ex-boyfriend in, the one from college. They'd been talking for months and she thought if you were gone, they could get back together." That explained a lot. "How's that working out for her?" Jenny grimaced. "It's not. He's married with kids, wants nothing to do with her drama." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Really?" I thought about it. "Yeah, I am. I don't wish her harm. I just couldn't stay with someone who'd lie about something that serious. She destroyed your relationship for a fantasy that didn't even exist." People make bad choices when they're not thinking clearly. Jenny looked at me curiously. "You're not angry?" I was angry for a long time, but staying angry wasn't helping me move forward. "Rachel said you could have had her arrested for filing a false police report." "I could have, but she withdrew the complaint before filing with police. I figured that was punishment enough. She's lucky you're a decent person." 3 months later, I got a letter from Rachel, a long apology explaining her therapy insights and acknowledging the damage her lies could have caused. She took full responsibility and thanked me for not pursuing legal action against her. I never responded to the letter. Some situations don't require closure, just distance. A year later, Frank helped me buy a duplex in the same neighborhood. He recommended me to the seller as a reliable tenant, which helped my mortgage application. "You handled that situation with Rachel really well," he said during the closing paperwork signing. "I just tried to stick to the facts." That's exactly what you did. A lot of people would have gotten emotional and made things worse. Getting emotional wouldn't have proved my innocence. Frank nodded. "The security footage was smart thinking. Without that, it would have been your word against hers. That's why I always tell people to document everything in writing and keep records. You never know when you'll need proof of the truth." Good advice. I've actually upgraded the security systems in all my properties since then. Better cameras, longer recording periods. Because of what happened with Rachel? Partly, but also because it protects everyone. Tenants can't make false accusations, and real victims have evidence when they need it. I moved into my duplex and rented out the other unit to a quiet graduate student. No drama, no false accusations, no relationship complications. These days when people ask me about living with romantic partners, I always tell them the same thing. Character matters more than chemistry. Someone who will lie to get their way in small things will lie about big things when the stakes are higher. I learned that lesson from Rachel, but thankfully I learned it with evidence on my side.